Dedication and Introduction of Songs by the Sea. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Larry Wilson. Songs of the Sea by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Dedication to Francis Folsom Cleveland, beloved of all. This little volume is inscribed. Introduction. The ocean never fails to waken in those who look upon it the strongest emotions, ranging from admiration to awe, even terror, its vastness encompassing the earth, its mystery guarding in unfathomable depths such wealth of sunken wreck and sunless treasuries, its ever-changing face now smiling at the beauty of the dayspring, or gently reflecting the glory of the sunset, and again beneath the midnight sky wearing the aspect of a firmament itself with its own constellation of stars, then changing to its multitudinous laughter, or yet more stirred by the breeze, its waves seeming to the eyes of Ariosto Neptune's white herds lowing o'er the deep, and yet again, when roused by the fury of the hurricane, the heap of great waters utters its voice and lifts up its hands on high. The beholder cannot but feel that when in this mirror of the Almighty he thus glasses himself in tempests, he made darkness his secret place, and that his pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. Each of these aspects not only awakens the sensibility, but enkindles the imagination of him that hath eyes to see. No wonder, then, that the poets, gifted with the vision and faculty divine, have ever delighted to use the sea in description for images, interpreting its meanings and making us familiar with its majesty, both of beauty and of wrath. The loftiest song bequeathed to us by grey antiquity is the triumphant strain of Moses, chanted by Miriam and her maidens on the shore of the sea, commemorating the victory it wrought as the servant of the Most High. And from that day to this, almost every true poet has yielded to the spell of this image of eternity, the throne of the invisible, and their finest passages deal with it. It is natural, therefore, that the sensitive spirit and delicate fancy of Mrs. Springer should be deeply moved and enkindled by both its grandeur and loveliness. Its calm soothes her as a lullaby. Its mirrors, rounded large, bright with the sun's glory, transfer the radiance to her soul, and torn ocean's roar not only lifts up her imagination to hear the voices of the deep calling unto deep, but draws forth her tenderest sympathies for the human suffering and loss caused by the devouring main. Nor is it strange that one bred upon the prairies of the West, as she was, knowing the ocean only by hearsay for many years, should be prepared to yield her heart to its mighty charm. The boundless plains of her native land, whose gentle undulations resemble the long swell of the sea, their verdure almost matching its hue, their groves easily mistaken for islands, that like to the rich and various gems inlay the unadorned bosom of the deep, would school the eye and mind of Mrs. Springer to see and tell of things invisible to most of us. When she came to stand by the multitude of great waters through which she beholds Jehovah, riding upon his horses and chariots of salvation. These Songs by the Sea, with the exquisite illustrations which make them yet more real, will, I am sure, be welcomed in many a household throughout this broad land. The melody of their musical numbers, the vivid pictures and tender pathos, the genuine human interest born of the soothing thoughts that spring out of human suffering, in the faith that looks through death, and years that bring the philosophic mind, will cause them to be enshrined in the memory and love of countless readers. William Henry Milburn, Washington, D.C., September 25th, 1889. End of introduction. The Singer by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. 'Twas night in a little village, a village down by the sea, and the clouds hung low, drifting to and fro, and the wind moaned drearily. Anon the great waves lashing the rocks tossed high the foam, and over the billows dashing their white sails dimly flashing. The fisherman hastened home, and darker and yet still darker the night with its storm came down, and deeper and yet still deeper, like death o'er a doomed sleeper, gloom hung o'er the silent town. Round many a fireside cheery, shut in from the gloom and the storm, shut in from the night so dreary, from the sea with its moanings weary, cozy and bright and warm, the village cronies gathered, gathered from far and near. And many a story of horror, and many a tale of terror, they hasten to tell and hear. The children, in open-eyed wonder or fear, crouched listening near, while the mother, with babe on her bosom, stood listening the story so gruesome, with oft-times a sigh or a tear. When suddenly over the waters came the boom of the minute gun, and out from the firesides cheery, out into the night so eerie, intent on the work to be done, rushed women and men to the rescue. For brave hearts in rude bosoms lie. They heard in that sound so appalling the voices in agony calling, "Send help to us soon, or we die!" Great bonfires soon were a-blazing. By their light through the mist they could see faintly outlined a ship madly rolling 'mid the breakers, while tolling, still tolling, her bell rang a knell o'er the sea. "She has foundered amid the breakers, she has gone ashore on the reef," was the cry as they fell to devising, while the mad waves were evermore rising, the means that should bring relief. Brave hearts, eager hands, trimmed the lifeboat, with strong men and true she was manned. But the incoming billows quick caught her, and shaken and tossed swiftly brought her, and threw her back high on the strand. Again and again they endeavored with that dark, angry sea to contend. But higher and yet still higher leaped the billows, like fierce flames of fire, and they knew that all hope there must end. Suddenly through the darkness came the shriek of a little child, full of anguish and terror, ringing out sharp and wild over the roar of the tempest, borne from the ship that lay tossing amid the breakers, so near, yet so far away. Again the men sprang to the lifeboat, and each face was pale and set, and eyes unused to weeping with manly tears were wet. But no boat could stem the breakers, a boat without command, like a straw in the breath of the tempest, was thrown back on the strand. The women wept in anguish, and raised their hands in prayer, for every heart was stricken with that sharp cry of despair. Hark! Borne over the waters, ringing out strong and clear, came the voice of a woman singing, and listening they could hear the words in the lull of the tempest, "O love so undefiled." They knew 'twas the voice of the mother singing to calm her child, and as she sang to her darling, knowing that death was so near, she caught the words she so needed, her own heart to strengthen and cheer. "Hold thou thy cross before my closing eyes," rang out the words. Then came the breakers' roar, "Shine through the gloom, and point me to the skies." They knew she sang, though they could hear no more. Then came a lull, and clear as clear could be, heaven's morning breaks, and earth's vain shadows flee, and strong and full, like prisoned bird set free, "In life, in death, O Lord, abide with me." A heavier surge of the breakers, they heard the voice no more. And though they watched and waited, naught but the breakers' roar, and the moan of the wind, now dying, came to the listening ear. And they knew the voice of the singer they never again should hear. And when the night had wasted, and morn came, cold and gray, on the wet sand near the mooring a fair dead woman lay. To her heart was still enfolded a tiny fair-haired girl, with face like a wayside flower, and pure as an ocean pearl. And the sun broke through the shadows and looked on the dead and smiled, and they knew as they knelt about her 'twas the singer and her child. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Sea Mosses by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. What do ye tell of the sea, beautiful mosses, so tender and fair? Fairy spring roses, bright sea maidens' hair, paintings of coral so dainty and rare. What do ye tell of the sea? Where do ye dwell in the sea? Down in the caves where mermaids play, wreathing their walls with your delicate spray, then floating upward, away and away, bringing this pleasure to me. What do ye hear in the sea? Hear ye the song of the mermaids beneath, luring the sailors to darkness and death? Hear ye the last gurgling sound of his breath as he sinks down in the sea? Tell us, ye flowers of the sea, when the brave ship on the breakers is thrown, hear ye the cries of the dying, the moan of the poor wretch who sinks downward alone into the depths of the sea? Hear ye these sounds of the sea? Or is it only the sounds that we love, murmurs of caverns with bright treasure trove, of delicate shells and bright coral grove hidden away in the sea? And do ye long for the sea? Linger there voices that whispering tell of the sea wave with its musical swell, voices that, like the sweet tones of the shell, echo for air of the sea. This do ye whisper to me: God in His wisdom, His love, and His care, fashions the beautiful everywhere. Naught can more plainly His power declare than this sweet moss from the sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Drifting by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. The boats go idly drifting over the summer sea. The sails are hanging loosely down, or flapping lazily. All quiet lies the harbor, the waves are all asleep, and silence broodeth gently now over the restless deep. A bugle softly soundeth beyond the bastioned wall, and far across the waters we hear the sea mews call. The sunset hues have faded, the lighthouse lamps aglow, yet still the music stealeth over the waters low. My life is drifting, drifting out on a trackless sea, but its waves are hushed, and music steals from the distant shore to me. And I know when the daylight fadeth for me on the shores of time, I shall safely drift to the harbor, whence issue those strains sublime. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Wreck on the Strand by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. I stood upon the strand. Before me lay the tranquil waters of the placid bay. The solemn thud of waves upon the shore broke the near stillness. Faintly sounded o'er the waves the sea mew's cry, and far away the fisher's song came drifting o'er the bay. The sea-gull floated on the light wave's crest. The purple haze hung low within the west. A golden cloudlet in the deep blue lay, holding within its breast the sun's last ray. While over all the young moon thread-like hung, and from the distant heights the curfew rung. A white sail slowly o'er the waters crept, and deepening shadows in the hollows slept. And toward the old wreck, high upon the strand, the encroaching waves stole o'er the yielding sand. And then my thoughts ran backward many a day, and rested where a ship at anchor lay. I saw the stalwart captain and his crew, their many friends who came to say adieu, heard the command to let the anchor go, and listened to the seaman's brave heave-ho. Then as the sails filled out I heard the cheers, and heard the women's moans, and saw their tears, and thought how many a heart would throb with pain before the brave ship anchored there again. And then my thoughts went drifting far away, far out beyond the limits of the bay, out where 'gainst rugged cliffs the breakers roar, and beat in anger on a rock-bound shore. And there once more I saw the ship, But now the breakers dashed across her gallant prow. The masts were gone, her anchor would not hold. Alas, how oft this story has been told! Of the brave crew no record do we find. Passing, no landmarks have they left behind. We only know there came no helping hand, and there the wreck lies on the shifting strand. And fancy once more flitting sees the home to which the sailor nevermore will come. Sees the fond wife her lonely vigils keep, lists to her earnest prayers, and hears her weep. O hearts that weep, O eyes that watch in vain, will not some recompense reward your pain? Some future good to these worn hearts return in compensation for the grief they've borne? A wave breaks at my feet. I start and shrink. The stars are out. Their soft rays rise and sink upon the dancing waves. The stranded wreck shows only here and there a tiny speck. The golden cloud has faded quite away. The sails no more are drifting o'er the bay. The fisher's distant song no more is heard. But thoughts within my soul the sea has stirred that will not rest. Like waves they come and go, moving the hidden depths that slept below. And this their burden, this the sad sea moan, heard ever in the waves' deep undertone. How like our mortal life is to the sea, its tranquil hours, its storms, its mystery, its breaking waves that ceaseless beat the shore, like breaking hearts that hope till hope is o'er, its flitting sails that meet upon the main. Like hearts that love an hour, then part again, its hidden graves, o'er which the waters flow, hiding the skeletons that sleep below. Its drifting sands that kindly cover o'er, like passing years, the wrecks that line the shore. Its shells that ever murmur of the deep, like tender memories that will not sleep. Its songs that oft at eventide we hear, like echoes from that world so far, so near. Its haze through which we see the distant land, but most of all, its wrecks upon the strand. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Stormswept by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. A storm is over the sea. The angry waves with sullen roar leap and dash on the rugged shore. And over the waters far away the beacon glimmers through fog and spray like will-o'-the-wisp over the lee. The gloom grows thick and fast. The boats are at anchor. And hark, the bell sounds o'er the waves like a funeral knell. A leaden sky broods over all, like the heavy folds of a funeral pall, and the wind goes shrieking past. God pity the fisher lad, whose boat is still on this angry sea, exposed to dangers that may not flee. Distant so far he may not hear the warning bell from the lighthouse pier in its toiling so lone and sad. And pity the mother so old, with pallid face 'gainst the window pane, straining her eyes through the mist and the rain, watching with hope akin to despair, for sight of the boat that is not there, with her fisher lad so bold. Night closes darkly down. She cannot see through the mist and rain. Still she presses her face 'gainst the window pane. Amid the darkness she still can pray for the lad of her heart so far away. The wind answering moan for moan. What will the morrow bring? Joy and gladness, or grief and pain? Sunshine and brightness, or clouds and rain? Over that home will joy be shed, or must the sea give up its dead? What will the morrow bring? O sea with the sullen moan, with the dark waves fierce and high, dashing against the rugged shore beneath this leaden sky, what when the morning breaks, the morning we all must see? What will thy hidden depths reveal? What will thy mysteries be? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Shining Track by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. From the lighthouse tower I watch at night. Low, heavy clouds make a lone dark sea, save through a rift the moonbeams bright throw a narrow stream of silvery light. Like a path I fancy for forms in white to come, as I'm watching on bended knee from the unseen world to me. I watch for the boats to come sailing back that went at dawn, but naught can I see, save where the moon through the waters black has cut for itself this shining tack. And in it 3 boats I plainly see that are sailing back to me. There are other boats, there must surely be, where the waters are dark and the clouds hang low, but I can only see the 3 sailing so placidly to me. Through the shining path across the sea, only these are safe, I know. Where are the others that sailed? Alack, I look in vain out over the sea. The waves are heavy, the clouds are black, and I turn again to the shining track, but none, alas, are coming back through its silvery gates, but 3. Then I silently think of another path, with its shining light across life's sea, and I pray, O Father, when clouds of wrath hang darkly above us, may our faith draw us from the darkness into the path of light that is shed by Thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Ships by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. The ships go up, the ships go down, the sails of the fishermen dot the bay. The walls of the fort from the hilltop frown, and the town at its feet lies asleep today. The ships go up and the ships go down, some to the harbor, some to the sea. I watch one sailing away from the town, out to the great wide sea. Ah me! I watch it sailing away from the town, for it bears in its heart of oak my lad so bonny, so brave, so brown, and my heart is sad, my heart is sad. O sea, so restless, O sea, so deep, when will you bring him to me again? I shall think of him waking, dream of him asleep, while my heart is torn with a secret pain. Will you bring him back to me, brave and true, the lad you have torn from my heart today? Shall I crown him with laurel, or crown him with rue, when the ship returns that now bears him away? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Under the Seawall by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Under the seawall down by the bay, I dream the beautiful hours away. My body from pain has sweet release, and my soul is full of rest and peace. There is wonderful balm in the solemn flow of the sunlit waves as they come and go. Rest to the tired nerves and brain, peace to the heart if filled with pain. I look away o'er the waters blue, where the distant ships seem sailing through the sunset clouds, with their golden glow like the light from the years of the long ago. And I almost fancy the purple haze in the glowing west hides from our gaze the distant shore, with its golden strand and its bastioned walls of the better land. And I almost fancy I hear the call of tender voices beyond the wall, and look with wistful eyes to see dear faces smiling down on me through the haze, which now doth plainly show in its purple depths a golden glow. I cannot believe it is but a dream that will fade with the sunset's golden gleam. O sunset sky, O wonderful sea, what radiant visions you bring to me! How you lift my soul from the dross and the clay, and bear it on solemn wings away, where things of diviner mould have birth than ever were born on this shadowed earth. and givest me courage to faithful be, wherever God's wisdom placeth me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Down by the Sea by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. A Rondeau. Down by the sea, our spirits partake of its mystery. Our souls are uplifted and float away to the beautiful realms of cloudless day, while strains of melody soft and low come with the waves in their solemn flow. The world has no charms there for you or for me, and we almost wonder if evil can be down by the sea. Down by the sea, the Christ who died for you and me, while yet upon earth ofttimes would walk, and with his loved disciples talk. He must have loved its solemn tones, even its tempests and its moans, for oft he sought on bended knee the Father's loving face to see, down by the sea. Down by the sea, the wonderful Sea of Galilee, the hungry thousands who begged for bread from 5 small loaves were amply fed. And when their hunger was satisfied by him who soon they crucified, he taught them, oh so tenderly, lessons of trust and charity, down by the sea. Down by the sea, he healed the sick, made the blind to see, the lame to walk, and the dumb to sing praises to Jesus, their Lord and King. Devils cast out till they begged to flee with the frightened swine down into the sea, down by the sea. Once when a storm raged o'er the deep, within the ship he lay asleep. But when the frightened sailors cried to him for help their bark to guide, he calmed the tempest by his will, said to the mad waves, "Peace, be still." At once his voice the waves obey, and in the haven the good ship lay, down by the sea. Once in the midnight dark and lone, a soft light through the tempest shone, and as they called upon his name, walking on stormy waves he came. And when, affrighted still, they prayed, he called, "'Tis I, be not afraid." Ah, blessed voice that calms each fear, when winds are high and storms are near upon life's sea. Down by the sea, I whisper, "Saviour, come to me. Unseal my eyes, that I may see the pathway thou dost mark for me. Guide my poor stumbling feet, and show them how with thee to safely go. Unloose my faltering tongue to sing the praises of my Saviour King, and let my holiest lessons be taught me from day to day by thee, down by the sea. Down by the sea, the crystal sea, where all of the redeemed shall be, where you and I, beloved, shall go, our crimson robes washed white as snow in Christ's dear blood. What hymns of praise through countless ages we shall raise. There all our loved ones we shall see. Think what a meeting that will be, down by the sea. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Divided by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. A cold gray rock, a leaden sky, and the moan of the restless sea. A lonely beach stretching far away where a woman walked wearily. The damp sea air to her dark hair clung. Her face was haggard and worn, as though she had watched in sorrow long for one who would never return. Her white hands were clasped as in sad appeal, as she stood out over the sea, while the passionate murmured words revealed the soul's deep agony. Parted forever! Well, 'tis best, for life brought only sad unrest to one, to both. And yet I cannot quite forget that I loved him, and he loved me. And that whate'er my lot may be, howe'er so wide apart may lie our separate ways beneath the sky, The time hath been when I have heard his heart beneath my head, and stirred its inmost depth by word of mine. And now, alas, I make no sign. I cannot, dare not, that my own is breaking for his sake. No moan escapes my lips, no tear my eye. Yet often, though I scarcely know why, I'd lay my worn life gladly down to win forgetfulness. The frown of fortune hath no sting for me, like this pale ghost of memory. The years pass on, they come, they go, yet summer's sun or winter's snow alike recall the past. I see the shadowy way marked out for me, adown the coming years, and know my weary feet therein must go. And thou, ah, thou so far away, sitting by the lone fire to-day. What sayest thou? Changed though thou art, thou canst not put me from thy heart. Thou seest me ever at thy side, as in the past. Perchance thy pride can hide the wound, conceal the smart, but memory lives within thy heart. And this I know, when we shall stand together in that far-off land, when o'er our souls shall fall the light that solves all doubts, reveals the right, when all the shadows are swept away, in the light of that most perfect day, heart unto heart will cling again, as though the shadows never had been, and the past with its sorrows no more shall stand like a spectre of wrath with uplifted hand. Longing, hoping, thus do I wait for the life beyond the shadowy gate. And the sea moaned on, the clouds dropped rain, as though to answer her in her pain. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. A Legend of Dunluce by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Afar where Atlantic billows break over a rock-bound shore, and dash into many a hidden cave with fierce and sullen roar, where the Giant's Causeway standeth like sentinels grim and old, a massive rock uplifts itself from the waters dark and cold, and high on its barren summit a ruined castle stands, with bare walls reaching heavenward like a shipwrecked sailor's hands. No ivy climbs its turrets, no moss to its casement clings. Time over its darkened portals no softening shadow flings, but like a ghostly presence it standeth all cold and gray, crowned by the mists of ocean and kissed by the dashing spray. A narrow but fearful chasm divides this rock from the land, and this in the feudal ages a massive drawbridge spanned. And here Lord Antrim of Antrim secure from his foemen stood. The rocky tower his fortress, his bulwark, the raging flood, the castle fronted the mainland. Let this be remembered, I pray. The castle fronted the mainland, the kitchen lay nearest the sea, and under it was a cavern where the waves mad revels kept, and where it was whispered the Banshee, the terrible Banshee, slept. One night a banquet was given, full 200 years ago, and from turret to rock foundation the castle was all aglow. The ladies of rank and beauty and lords of high degree went over to Dunluce Castle to join in the revelry. From turret to rock foundation the castle was all aglow, while the winds and the waves together kept maddening revel below. 'Twas a fearful night. The Storm King abroad in his anger went, and alas for the hapless vessels on which his fury was spent. He raged in a mad endeavor to tear the rock from its bed, till the music stopped and the dancers grew pale with affright and dread. "'Tis a fearful night," they whispered. "We will not dance any more." And the waves tossed back in answer a fierce defiant roar. Then up spake Lord Antrim proudly: "For ages in sun and storm this castle has stood uninjured. There is no cause for alarm. On, on with the music and dancing, till the winds cast every fear. We are safe in this rock-bound castle. No danger can reach us here." And again the music sounded with its soft, voluptuous flow. But the winds and the waves together kept maddening revel below. In the banquet hall the tables with lavish care were spread with the rarest fruits and flowers, while 1,000 soft lights shed their radiance over the silver and glass, so rich and rare. And the pompous butler beamed with pride, and bustled here and there, to see his orders were obeyed by under-servants all, who hastened here and thither at his slightest beck or call. Beyond, in the spacious kitchen, the maids hurried to and fro, preparing the tempting viands, and the great hearth was aglow with a fire whose ruddy splendor lit up the grand old place, with a touch that even softened the old cook's careworn face. It cast gaunt, dancing shadows high on the kitchen wall, and threw long gleams of rosy light into the servants' hall, resting upon the golden head of one who lingered there, with soft caressing touch, sweet Rose, my lady's handmaid fair. On young Donald, brave and comely, who lingered near her side, wooing the bright young girl he hoped some day to make his bride. But she could not list his wooing, but whispered, pale with fright, "Would we were on the mainland safe this fearful, fearful night!" He drew her to the fireside, and soothed her fears away, and beckoned to old Michael upon his pipe to play. Close in the chimney corner Michael the piper sat, but he would not play upon his pipe. He softly stroked the cat that restless crouched beside him, and then, half fearful, said, "The waves make noise enough to-night to wake the sleeping dead." "Ay," said old Maud the cook, as slow she swept the kitchen hearth, "say what you will, this is no time for revelry and mirth. Evil hangs over more than one within these castle walls, for every night beneath my room a banshee cries and calls." "Tut," said the basing butler, "have done your silly tale. 'Tis only fit to make the maidens tremble and turn pale." "Well," old Maud replied, shaking her silvery head, "but well I know the banshee's cries have filled his soul with dread." "And well they may," old nurse responds, crooning beside the fire, "for did I not last Sunday night, beyond the midnight hour, hear the slow muffled tolling of the castle chapel bell, and see the chapel all aglow, when none the cause could tell? And as I strained my dim old eyes, I was too faint to call. A long procession slowly wound beneath the castle wall. I heard their slow and solemn tread, I heard the funeral hymn, I saw their pallid faces, though my eyes are old and dim. But as they neared the drawbridge, raised as 'tis wont to be, they one by one dropped silently into the troubled sea." Her voice sank to a whisper, as nodding slow her head, she sat and looked into the fire, the while a nameless dread stole over all within the room, for nurse could none gainsay. The sun and shade of 90 years were scattered o'er her way. The piper sat with mouth agape, old Maud leant on her broom, the maids were pale, and e'en the butler lingered in the room. Sweet Rose clung to her lover, for louder than before the waves dashed in the cave beneath with fierce exultant roar. "The walls do tremble, Donald, and twice to-night we've heard a loud report as though a gun within the cave were fired. Old Jacques says that in Switzerland before the mountains fall such sounds are heard. Oh, what was that? See the trembling wall." Ah, what was that? Above the storm there came a roar, a rush as though of many wings, then over all a death-like hush. Meanwhile in the great hall the music softly rose and fell. The merry dancers half forgot the storm they could not quell. The laugh was free, the jest was gay, each strove the hour to charm, when what was that that filled each heart with terror and alarm? A fearful roar, a sullen crash, a trembling, swaying sound, and from the walls the pictures and the busts lie scattered round. The music stopped midway a strain. The dancers, pale with dread, looked less like happy revelers than like the sheeted dead. Strong men grew pale at danger that they knew not how to meet. As women, white with terror, sank trembling at their feet. They thought it was an earthquake shock, but as the moments passed, the hush of death was everywhere. Even the furious blast sank to a wailing murmur, a sobbing, pitying moan. The angry throbbing of the waves below was heard alone. Lord Antrim, pale but stately, now rang the footman's bell, and through the silent corridors the echoes sharply fell. They waited, but no servant responded to the call, and the heavy silence everywhere fell like a sable pall. Then with one impulse from the room they all together ran, down the long winding stairway to the hall of entrance, then through all the stately saloons to the hall of feasting, where was spread in bright profusion the banquet, rich and rare. But here the angry surging of the waves so near them seemed, only a few pressed onward to the servants' hall beyond. And there they found, great heavens, only a dark abyss, where a million angry demons seemed to dance and howl and hiss. The spacious kitchen, but an hour before so bright and warm, had fallen into the seething waves, a victim to the storm. The maids, the cook, the butler, the nurse so old and gray, brave Donald and his pretty Rose, all were swept away. Only the great wide chimney with the firelight yet aglow stood erect, its ruddy light cast on the rocks below. And, crouching in the corner, half dead with fear and fright, Michael the piper sat, his hair so black turned snowy white. With pallid, terror-stricken face and eyes like fire aglow, he crouched upon the hearth and gazed in the dark depths below. The cat against the chimney wall shrank trembling with affright. A ghastly pair they seemed indeed, seen through the gloom that night. Such was the story told to me one dark November day. Around us frowned the castle walls, and just beneath us lay the ruins of the kitchen. And as the wild waves roared in anger on the rocks below, our guide the story told. A hale old man, he led me safely, gently by the hand, across the narrow causeway that divides the rock from land. Showed all the halls and chambers, and then in silence led to where the chimney stands, like monument above the dead. We looked into the dark abyss while we heard the tale, and fancied that we saw the storm and heard the maddening gale, and our hearts grew faint with thinking of that night so long ago. Of the 9 who've slept 200 years beneath the rocks below, old Maud the hearth was sweeping at the time, the old man said. So every night she is compelled to leave her watery bed, and come with cries and weeping her unfinished work to do. Alas, alas, I sadly cried, if this indeed be true, how few of us will ever lie in soft unbroken sleep, if over our unfinished work we must return to weep. How few, alas! We toil, we strive, we blindly grope our way, to only find within our grasp, at close of life's brief day, a tiny wisp of golden grain from out the great wide fields where others gather heavy sheaves, and where we too have kneeled, striving to cut the ripening grain, from morn till set of sun, yet find so little finished, and so much to do undone. And this was the silent lesson I drew as we turned away from the old deserted castle with its walls so cold and gray, never to seek temptation, believing ourselves secure. We cannot shut out a danger by simply barring the door, when under us and around us the evil exulting lies. We must build with the solid rock beneath, up toward the vaulted skies. We must daily watch and hourly, as life's storms about us beat, that an enemy does not undermine the rock beneath our feet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Watching and Waiting by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Song of the Venetian Fisherman's Wife. The shadows are falling o'er mountain and lea, and night vapors rising far out on the sea. On the beach, hearing only the sullen sea moan, a fisherman's wife waiteth weary and lone. Her husband beloved o'er the waters doth roam, and her fond heart is yearning to welcome him home. Her eager eye scans the wide waters, that she his earliest signal of safety may see. But darkness comes on, brooding o'er the wave. She no longer may watch for her lover so brave. But soft o'er the waters, like notes of a bird, the song of her eventide welcome is heard. Come back to me, darling, from over the sea. Come back, for my fond heart is waiting for thee. The darkness forbids me to watch for thee more, but trusting and brave, I will wait on the shore. She pauses and listens. Far out on the main a manly voice takes up the dying refrain. I am coming back, darling, from over the sea, to the heart that is waiting so fondly for me. Let the darkness between us oppress thee no more, but trustingly wait for me, love, on the shore. Through the darkness is heard now the quick dipping oar, and both voices blending. We'll meet on the shore. And thou, too, lone toiler on life's troubled sea, with fond heart still yearning thy lost ones to see. There are soft voices calling like those of a dream. Come home to us, darling, from o'er the dark stream. The tempests are fierce, but be trustful and brave, and the angels will pilot thee safe o'er the wave. Shrink not from the darkness, it soon will be o'er, and remember we watch for thee, love, on the shore. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Good Night by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Good night, dear waves of the sea, good night. Reluctant for even an hour I go. There's a charm in thy calm, a charm in thy might, and a charm in thy bright waves' ebb and flow. What is it that brings to our souls such peace as we stand on the shore of the restless sea? Are they stilled by the waves that never cease, or awed by thy type of eternity? I wake from my sleep in the midnight lone, and hear thy waves as they break on the shore, and through them the solemn undertone repeating, Forever, forevermore. I know that for ages, since God first spoke thy waves into being, they've thus rolled on, surging and beating on shore and rock, beating and surging with ceaseless moan. And so when the feet that tread thy shore, the eyes that watch, and the hearts that thrill, shall come to thy strand no more, no more, thy waves will be surging and beating still. Through the ages before us, stars shall set, nations shall rise, and thrones decay. But the seal of God is on thee set, thy grandeur can never pass away. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Resignation by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. Dead! Will you read the telegram over again to me that came in the early morning from Memphis, Tennessee? Died of the yellow fever last night at 7:30. Edward, your son. How dark a path to lead to the gate of heaven. Ned, my beautiful darling, so happy and gay and free. Could not the angels have spared him a little longer to me? Just 1 month this morning since he came to me and said, Mother dear, darling mother, smile on your wayward Ned, and say Godspeed to the mission of mercy on which I go, to give the sick and the dying what comfort I can bestow. Oh, not the plague-stricken cities, oh Edward, my boy, not there. I cried as his loving fingers smoothed down my thin gray hair. You are my youngest darling. I can never let you go. Pity your poor old mother. Spare her this added woe. How could I live without you? Others more wise than you will do more skilfully, better, the thing that you wish to do." Softly, almost reproachfully, came back the noble reply. "Some mother's son, fever-stricken for want of my care, may die. Think, darling mother, it might have been Benny, or Will, or Joe, or even your Ned. Dearest mother, say you will let me go." Yes, he was right. It might have been one of my boys. The thought stirred all the tenderness in me. Tears to my dim eyes brought. God would watch over my darling, bring him again to me. Surely no evil could reach him, working so earnestly thus for the good of others, working in God's own way. So I crushed back the anguish, though I could only say, broken, tearfully, "Edward, kneel with me here." And so, after our anguish praying, I kissed him and whispered, "Go." So he started that evening. Just when he went to start, he said to me, "Dearest mother, keep up a strong, brave heart. I shall come back in safety. And if I don't, well then, we'll hope that the gate of heaven will open to let me in." And he has entered, you whisper. Yes, he has entered it, dear, but he has left his mother stricken and helpless here. Try not to talk of it. Let me, 'tis all the comfort I know, thus to talk of my darling, who cherished his mother so. First came the letters written full of a beautiful faith, that God would let him for many soften the pangs of death. And so he did, for many a dying message he heard, and spoke to the stricken stranger many a comforting word. Never in all the city a face he had seen before. Ah, there's the pang, among strangers. There I will cry out no more. Only the thought is so dreadful. Pardon a mother's moan over her boy, so brave-hearted, dying alone there. Alone. Talk of the charge of an army, the charge of the Light Brigade, storming a battery unaided, meeting the foe undismayed. Well, they were brave, honor to them, 'twas gallantly, valiantly done, but not to a man's going bravely to fight death's legions, alone. They, excited by battle, obeyed a mistaken command. He, in the flush of his manhood, went forth with his life in his hand, into the ranks of the dying, scourge-smitten ranks, not to make a name for the annals of glory, but for humanity's sake. They are the heroes for story, they, the brave women and men who have gone forth thus to battle, gone but returned not again. Ah, you are weeping. I thank you. Tears for my brave-hearted Ned. He was the light of our home life. Can it be true he is dead? When I first heard it this morning, I thought that my heart would break. In tearless anguish, I questioned how God his life could take, when he was working so nobly, exiled from friends and home. And I lay moaning, but tearless, here in my darkened room, when underneath my window Philip the gardener I heard talking with Eli Bennet, who scoffs at God and his word. "I greatly fear me," said Philip, "his poor old mother will die. She cannot be reconciled. He lay to her heart so nigh." "Ah, poor woman," said Eli, "but where's her faith so bright? I thought she believed her God could only do what was right." Only do what was right. Yet at the first stroke of his rod in quick rebellion, my heart had questioned the wisdom of God. How do I know but my boy, much as it darkens our home, may have been taken away from some great evil to come? So in the darkness I hold fast to the hand that I know some day will lead me to him, my darling who loved me so. End of poem This recording is in the public domain. Waiting by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. The fields are whitening 'neath the ripening grain. I long to toil among the reapers there. What full ripe sheaves I'll gather ere the rain, to show my gratitude for God's dear care. Thus saying, strong and resolute, I stood amid the ever busy, hurrying throng, waiting to see, in somewhat anxious mood, the Lord and Master as he passed along. He came. Quick pressing through the eager throng, I stood beside him near the open gate. "Master, what shall I do? My soul is strong." He turned and calmly said, "Here, stand and wait." The hot blood to my brow and temples flew. I struggled fiercely with my hapless fate. "O Master, have you naught for me to do?" "Yes," he replied at once. "Here, stand and wait." He passed along. Then through the weary hours I stood with restless hands and aching heart. I would not even pluck the fragrant flowers beneath my feet, while thus I stood apart. Again he passed. I cried with downcast head, "I'd rather die than only stand and wait." One look of sad rebuke, no word he said, but left me weeping by the open gate. The weary, weary hours come and pass. I watch the reapers cut the bearded grain, and see their heavy sheaves, and cry, "Alas, that I can only wrestle with my pain." The night draws near. I see him once again. "O Master, see, 'tis growing dark and late. I have no sheaves." His sweet voice soothes my pain. They serve me best who patient stand and wait. So patiently I strive to stand and wait through all the glories of the changing years. Wait till his hand shall lead me through the gate, and change my sighs to song, to smiles my tears. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Crowd by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. That world of changing faces, day by day, chanced upon in various places, greet our way. Faces full of light and gladness, faces worn with care and sadness, faces sometimes marked with madness, by us stray. Faces haughty, faces lowly, greet the eye. Faces brazen, faces holy, linger nigh. Faces wherein lurks ambition, faces lit by some high mission, faces, bowed in sad contrition, pass us by. Here a face of sunny brightness, laughing eyes, where the soul in all its whiteness scorns disguise. Baby face, so pure and tender, that we pray, "O Father, send her holy angels to attend her from the skies." Close beside it, scarcely parted, looking down, scowls a face fore'er distorted by a frown. Face with evil passions blending, show the soul is earthward tending, as the eyes are ever bending darkly down. Index of the soul these faces that we meet, vice and virtue leave their traces there complete. Lessons taught by silent teachers, sermons preached by silent preachers, find we in these changing features on the street. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Which Will It Be by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. One of us, love, must stand where the waves are breaking on death's dark strand, and watch the boat from the silent land bear the other away. Which will it be? One of us, love, must bear the heavy burden that none may share, and stand all alone and desolate where we stood in life's fair day, joyous and free. One, either you or I, must hear the mandate, "Thy friend must die," and bend with the agonizing cry that only God can hear. Which will it be? and one must close the eyes of the other, the tender, loving eyes, and kiss the dead face that before us lies, the face so calm, so dear. Oh, agony! One, when the other is gone, will lean on the cold memorial stone, and brokenly sob, "Alone, alone!" And the winds will sigh over you or me. And one, grown old and gray, perchance, will walk still earth's toilsome way, and dream of the love that lives for aye, as the years roll by. Which will it be? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. He Leadeth Me by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. A wanderer over life's troubled way, a pilgrim far from home alway, naked and friendless though I be, Jesus supports and comforts me. Chorus. He leadeth me close by his side, at morn, at noon, at eventide, at home, abroad, where'er I be, he leadeth me, he leadeth me. When shadows gather o'er my way, hiding the brightness of the day, still mid the darkness I can see the loving hand that leadeth me. Chorus. He leadeth me close by his side, at morn, at noon, at eventide, at home, abroad, where'er I be, he leadeth me, he leadeth me. He leadeth me in the darkest night, when moon and stars refuse their light, when storms assail on land or sea, in safety still he leadeth me. When life is past, and time's no more, when Jordan's billows round me roar, I'll cross the stream, dark though it be, I will not fear, he leadeth me. Well, well I know, whate'er betide, that he my every step will guide. Oh, may his love my portion be, till through heaven's gate he leadeth me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Growing Old Together by Rebecca Ruter Springer. Read for LibriVox.org by Larry Wilson. We are growing old together. Time has touched our locks with gray, and the roseate hues of morning from our life have passed away. But we do not heed the shadows, though they lengthen where we stand, for we closely walk together, holding each other's hand. Oft we count the years together since our pathways joined in one. Part in sunshine, part in shadow, have the mingled courses run. But no shadow, howe'er sombre, can a lengthened gloom impart, when the sunlight softly lingers, shed by love within the heart. When we've reached life's mountain summit, down its western slope we'll start, with 1,000 sacred memories nestling softly in each heart. Should we reach its base together, what a precious boon 'twill be, thus to pass life with each other, thus to meet eternity. But should one, alas, grow weary of the journey by the way, and lie down beneath the willows to await the coming day, how the sunlight would be darkened, and how sad the way would seem, if our growing old together thus should fade into a dream. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. End of Songs by the Sea by Rebecca Ruter Springer.